Welcome to episode 35 of the Hunt Backcountry podcast, presented by Exo Mountain Gear. Right up front, let's take care of something I haven't done in a while. Let's give away some Exo swag. Totally dropped the ball on this one recently, guys. Thank you so much for the reviews and the feedback by email. I want to go ahead and give a shout out to One Simple Faith, who left us a review on iTunes. You are this episode's giveaway winner. In this week's episode, we're talking with Kody Kellom from the Full Draw Film Tour, as well as Born and Raised Outdoors. Had a great conversation with Kody about the upcoming film tour, some elk hunting tips, and much more. You're going to enjoy this episode. Thank you so much for listening.
The Hunt Backcountry podcast is proudly brought to you by Exo Mountain Gear, makers of ultralight, ultra-tough packs that are designed to do what you love most, hunt the backcountry. Exo packs are designed for efficiency, simplicity, and durability that's backed by a lifetime warranty. To learn more about Exo Mountain Gear, please visit www.exomountaingear.com.
Well, Kody, welcome to the Hunt Backcountry podcast. Thanks for joining us tonight, man.
Yeah, I'm stoked to be on here. It's fun. We've, one thing that's kind of unique is I've known Steve for a long time, and I remember we were talking about steelhead fish when we were steelhead fishing here. Oh, it was been a year ago, I guess. I had the idea. I'm like, yeah, we're gonna record a podcast. He's like, yeah, so are we. And so it's kind of it's awesome to see, like, both of us have been doing it, and it's enjoyable. And yeah, I'm excited to be here. So
yeah, that's fun. I think it's a cool format for sure.
There's really nothing like it out there. I mean, where you're limitless on what you can do with it or talk about, and it's fun. And I like the informative side of it, and I like the entertainment side of it. So
yeah, I think just too, as a consumer, I mean, I don't listen to a ton of podcasts. I listen to kind of a select handful, but it's just so nice while you're cutting the grass, or you're driving in the car, or you're doing some sort of other, task that you can, be soaking up some information or catching a bit of entertainment while you're doing something else. I think is unique because, to watch a film, to watch a video, you kind of have to sit down and watch it. To read an article or read a book, you have to sit down and dedicate all of your attention to it. But the podcast is kind of a cool filler you can do while you're doing something else.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was gonna say, while we're on the subject, you do the podcast with South Cox? What's the name of the show so guys can follow it?
Yeah, it's Full Draw Full Time. It's Bow Hunting the West, and yeah, South Cox is the host, and I help out getting things set up. And yeah, it's a fun, pretty low key. Try to keep it informative and some storytelling. So yeah, if you guys are on iTunes or Stitcher or Podbean, yeah, just look up Full Draw Full Time and tune in. Yeah, I'll be happy to have you guys as listeners. So
yeah, that's awesome. So speaking of stories, I'd love to start with one. I just saw that you posted a recently posted a picture, I should say, of a stud elk that you took with your trad bow. Was that just, I think this week you posted it. So
oh yeah, a little throwback Thursday, I think.
Yeah, so I would love to hear about when that hunt was and kind of catch the story on how that hunt unfolded.
Well, the whole trad journey has been something that's been, it's been a long road. It's been fun. I met South, and for you guys that don't know, South Cox, he's a bowyer, out of Northern California at Stalker Stick Bows. And, I met him, like in 2010, I think it was, when we were doing a Born and Raised talk, Born and Raised Outdoors video premiere at the Bow Rack, and started swapping stories, and he was building bows, and I kept picking them up, and like the whole time we were at this show, I just kept walking back over to that booth and picking them up. I'm like, man, this is pretty awesome. So it wasn't until about 2012 I finally got the nerve, like, okay, I want to try and do this. So I ordered one up and got it early in the year, and I'm like, well, I'll hunt with it next year. And I started shooting it, and next thing you know, in 2000, I guess it was 2013, I guess it was 2012. I hunted Oregon with it, and I missed one of the best Roosevelts that I've ever had a shot at with my recurve. And we were getting ready to leave for Nevada for Wyoming the next week, and so I hung that one back on the wall, and I'm like, okay, later date, I got to kill. I don't like missing. I don't like failing. So I took my compound to Wyoming and shot a bull at like 15 yards. And it was like, okay, I could have killed that one with a recurve. So 2013, I set up, 2013, I left it in the rack. In 2014, I said, okay, I'm going to devote the season to hunting with it. And we were hunting here locally, Roosevelt hunting, and it was opening weekend on, I think it was opening day, Saturday. I killed, or Sunday morning, I guess it was, I killed a buck with it. And that was like the first, it wasn't much of a hunt. It was a spot. We were driving by it, saw a buck, put a sneak on it, and shot this buck. And, it was a little forked horn, or as everyone in other states call them, 2 points. It's interesting. Like when Steve and I blacktail hunted together, he kept saying 2 point, and I'm like,
it's what the hell?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Like in the regulations here in Oregon, I mean, it calls forked horn. It doesn't say 2 point. It's just like, so anyways, long story short, killed this buck, got it taken care of, brought it back to town, got it in the cooler, went back up on the mountain, and right at dark, Steve Howard and I were locating, trying to find some elk, and we had a bull bugle like at dark. And so we met up with the guys at camp that night, put a plan together the next morning. I mean, it was like the textbook, like if you wanted an elk to do something, it did exactly what we were like wanting it to do. And slipped up this old cat road that they had logged out, and set up, bull was bugling, set up on it, and called him right down this road. And it's old dirt road, and drew back and shot him at 7 yards. And He ran out 30 yards and fell over dead. And it was like, it just one of those things, like everything went perfect. And, and since then, like I can't stop thinking about hunting with the stick bow. I mean, it's pretty fun. So
yeah, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
It's nice when it goes, oh, that's what we wanted to happen.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I had tagged out in Oregon in 2 days of hunting, and I've never done that with a compound. I mean, it just happened that the opportunities fell in my lap, and I was able to capitalize. So it was pretty exciting.
Yeah.
But
so do you still pick up the stick bow today, compound, go back and forth, just kind of go by feel?
Definitely back and forth. I honestly rather shoot my stick bow. And it was kind of weird. Like when I started shooting it totally, I mean, I've bow hunted since I was 12 years old. When I was legal, that's all I've ever done. So it definitely like relit the spark back in me, I guess, of, and not at all means, but I've never been there, done that. But it lit this fire that I didn't, I remember when I was a little kid shooting my bow, like I wanted to go shoot my bow. And then as years went on, I felt like I had to practice more so than just, wanting to, I just felt like it was a necessary need, but it was like, I felt obligated to do it
you didn't have that excitement. Like the second you're getting home, like, oh, I'm going to go freaking shoot,
Sure.
I mean, yeah. And it came into like, when I was trying to learn how to shoot stick bow, I mean, I shot it before I left the house in the morning, and I shot it in the house until my wife got mad at me. Like any waking moment that I had free, I wanted to pick that bow up and shoot it. And it still is definitely at that level. But I mean, last year I hunted exclusively with it, except for a late blacktail. I hunted with my compound because I have yet to be successful on a good hunt there. So there are ones that haunt me. But,
it's a tease, right? Like everything went perfect that first season with it. And, you're like, oh yeah, that was, it's not easy, but yeah, it was great. And then ever since then, it's not as easy.
Exactly. Yeah. So sure. I hunted with it here in Oregon last year and was able to get another bull. And then when I went to Idaho, I actually hunted with my compound. So, it's a good mix. It feels pretty cool to be able to shoot either bow and feel confident with it. And I mean, that's, I think, the key to hunting and being successful is just having confidence behind what you're doing. So,
yeah, I love the simplicity of it, because I'm one of those guys that, like, I went so deep into the compound side and, like, trying to figure everything out and understand tuning and bow building and setup and, every aspect of, there's just so much more to it, right? Like rests and sights and setting axis and timing and cams and, everything. And so, like, I went deep into that stuff and absolutely loved it. But then at the same time, I was like, it almost got, like, not overwhelming because I understood it, but there was so much to it that, like, when you pick up a stick bow, it's like there's such a simplicity to, like, it's kind of more on you, it's more about the shooting. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't taken the leap yet, but I'm kind of heading that way a bit.
Well, I know last night when I'm driving home from the office, I get a text and here's Spec sending his first 2 arrows, like right heart shot, touching, first 2 arrows from his new stick bow. So I'm like, yeah, okay, it's on. Let's do this.
Yeah, my stalker stick bow from South showed up. I was out of town over the weekend. I was here in the office when I got back on Tuesday. And
nice.
Man, yeah, first thing I got home the other night was just put a few arrows through it, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I don't know if I'm going to hunt this year or not, but I imagine it's kind of like Kody mentioned. You just got that little kind of kid excitement going on of, like, just really wanting to go out in the backyard and shoot versus I have to go shoot, So
yeah.
I'm looking forward to it, and you hit it right on the head with that simplicity aspect of just that bow is so lightweight and simple, and it's just up to you to shoot it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it's funny, like, talking to other people, like, well, how do you aim with it? And, like, the only analogy that I have that seems somewhat is, like, how do you throw a baseball and hit that person's mitt? And they're like,
sure.
Okay, and I'm like, it's practice, repetitiveness, and then, it's just that instinct takes over, and you just look at where you want to hit, and it's weird. It's like I don't even judge yardage per se. It's just like you draw back and you see the sight picture, and you just focus on the spot, and your arm does everything else. You don't think about it or what's going on. It just. I mean, there's a couple different ways, of course, of doing it, and some guys will gap shoot and they actually aim based on the tip of the arrow. But and I tried that for a while, but I just
so you're just more instinctive on it.
I did, yeah. I went to shooting both eyes open and focusing on the spot and just draw back, anchor, and shooting. So
yeah, that's cool. Well, that was an aside. That was cool, though, man. I saw that picture, and I was like, oh, I got to hear this story.
Yeah, I on the other side note, I posted a picture last night for Trad Tuesday, and it was going to be a controversial one, and I don't want to get too much on a sidebar of taking on a quarter-on shot, but it was one that I actually practiced, and I put up a picture with stick bow, and I shot my I like to call it the bully buck target, but it's a deer, little Reinhardt deer target. And I put some, I went to the fabric store and got some, like, shag, brown hide looking stuff that I put on it. So it looks like an elk mane. Yeah. And I took an old 5-point rack that I, off a bull I killed. So I have, like, my poor man's elk target, and shot these arrows quartered on right, in front of the shoulder blade. And I got a couple of calls this morning from people who are like, dude, you see what drama you started on Facebook? And I'm like, what? And sure enough, there was guys just like, I can't believe you'd shoot that shot. It was, and it kind of amazes me. I mean, of, what people, the perception, even shooting foam, long, short, quartered on, different angles or whatever. But, yeah, I don't know. It was kind of fun to just throw that one out there, but
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think we talked about that a little bit when Corey was on, and quartering 2 shots and that kind of that frontal. I mean, it can be clearly so devastatingly effective. And I think it's one of those things where to sit back on the internet, especially, and say what somebody else should or shouldn't do is, A, a waste of time, but B, you never know, that shooter's capabilities. You never know what the situation is. I mean, clearly nobody wants anyone else to go take a shot that they're not prepared for. But if somebody truly understands the anatomy, if somebody truly understands the capabilities, it really could be one of, the most effective shots that could be taken, really. But so many factors.
Yeah, no, it's exactly that. Dan Evans made a comment on this one that really struck through to me, and he basically is like, it encaps it all. He's like, making a kill shot on an elk every time means you hit something with your broadhead that results in a bull dying. And so then he's like, basically some vitals are smaller than others. And he's like, in the end of it, he said, in his theory, and he's, pretty accomplished hunter that's killed a ton of bulls. He said that you should not pass a shot that you're 100% confident you can make, and 100% will result in a dead elk quickly. Yeah. So, I mean, like you said, it's each to their own. The last thing I want to do is divide the archery community over something, but
yeah. So that was a shot you were practicing with the trad bow. Is that something that you do feel confident in? Obviously, given that situations are correct, taking or considering with the trad gear?
So, I mean, that first bull that I killed at 7 yards, I shot it quartered on and full arrow penetration when I shot. There was, with that,
so that's a yes.
Yeah, exactly. I took that shot and I was really felt comfortable with it, and it resulted in probably one of the quickest kills I've ever made. I mean, honestly, and the most epic blood trail too. It was awesome.
Yeah, that's cool. Very cool.
But
let's chat a bit about the Full Draw Film Tour. Clearly, one of the crew there. Could you go ahead and give us a history of, you guys are going into your 6th year now. Kind of tell us how it started, how you got involved, and how it's grown and changed over the years.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a fun, wild ride. I mean, like I said, it's actually in year, informally, I'm trying to think, it was in 2010 is when we took I guess it was 2010. We took our first year and did, year 0, essentially, and did a test run with it with 3 cities here in Oregon. And the guys from Born and Raised, we partnered up, and it kind of derived from, we did a film premiere at a theater, and it was a friends and family kind of an invite deal. And next thing you know, we had 300 people at the first when we premiered our film tagged out in 2009, and it was like the energy and seeing something on the big screen, aside from a blockbuster movie, it was totally different. And so that's when we started the film tour the next year, and 2011 is when we actually made it a business, and we've been kind of running ever since. And we really wanted to, what the roots of it all is, to give a platform for, these independent filmmakers that aren't TV personalities or, big companies, and really have these talented guys and gals have a platform where they can show their film. So that's how it started. And, we've had a roller coaster ride trying to make it where it's at. And we've slowly grown it. And this year we're going to be at 30 cities that we host, and another 10 to 15 shows that are hosted by other people. So, across the U.S. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. It's been fun. It's been a blast, and enjoying every minute of it.
That's crazy, man. 30 cities that you guys hit the road for. It's wild.
Yeah, I'm looking at the calendar
so
right now.
Explain what that means, though. Like, you say 30 cities that you host. What do you guys do? Like, what's involved with you guys going and hosting and putting on a show? Because it's a lot of work.
It's a ton of work. I mean, aside from just the day of when we show up, I mean, we're trying to book the right venues and locations and get some local people to help rally the troops and promotion. And then, I'm based out of Western Oregon, and, there's a few shows we do on the west side of Oregon, but basically 26, 27 of those shows are as far away as Billings, Montana, or Tucson, Arizona. I mean, we've had shows out in Oklahoma and Dallas, Texas. So there's a lot of driving, a lot of road time. And then once we get there, we've got a full enclosed trailer loaded down, and we basically empty it, decorate the theater, and get things in the right atmosphere and environment where, hunters feel welcomed, and put on a live event. During the show, we've been fortunate with a couple charities. We've done Hunt of a Lifetime and Wishes for Warriors. And so far, I think to date, I've got to look at this, but I believe we've raised $80,000 for the charities that we've had. And so last year we did Wishes for Warriors, and all said and done with in-kind donations, it was right at $40,000. We had $34,000 cash that we were able to raise. So
yeah,
that's awesome.
Pretty
cool.
Yeah, pretty neat experience. And honestly, from that, there's been a lot of God moments when we've been at those shows and had the fortune of meeting some of the veterans that have benefited from that. And just some stories that you trying to tell the story gives me the chills. I mean, but there was a guy, Wally, that came to a show with Brian from Wishes for Warriors down in Arizona in November, and Wally came up, gave me a big old hug, and he's a single amputee on the leg and lost his right arm, half his right arm, and he was telling me, he's like, before Wishes for Warriors came along, like, I contemplated suicide on a daily, it was just like he had no life. He lived just sitting on the couch, and once he got involved, it totally changed the realm of his outlook on life. And so being able to make a little small impact like that is just, it's pretty huge. So
yeah, that's massive.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Very cool.
But, so we're excited, and we the tour's growing, and we're having fun at it. And, we've got some great films for the lineup this year in FDFT 6. So, if anyone is interested in it, go check it out at fulldrawfilmtour.com and learn a little bit more about it and see some of the trailers. So,
yeah. So you mentioned 30 shows that you guys are putting on, and then there's other shows that you guys aren't, driving the truck, hosting yourselves. What do those look like? How do those happen? And if some guy's like out, in another part of the country and is like, oh, I'd love to put this on, is that something they can contact you guys and work with you guys and they put on the show then?
Yep, absolutely. So we do a program called FDFT Outfitted, where we provide basically the content and some of the marketing materials. And, with a small license fee, that we ship them everything out there that they need. And, they find a venue and start knocking on doors and getting people to buy tickets, and they can put on their own film tour. So the cool thing with that, like, we've partnered with Mule Deer Foundation. They've hosted some shows. Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, BHA, they're working on doing 10 shows this year. And we've had some independent guys do some of their own. There was a guy that did one in Pueblo, Colorado last year, and another guy out in Hayes, Kansas, that just wanted to bring it because they're passionate about archery. And so it's a great opportunity for someone doing a local club fundraiser or even a pro shop or anything like that. So
that's awesome. So if somebody's actually hearing that now, is semi-interested, did they just contact you guys through the website? It's the best way to go?
Yeah, yep. Up across the top menu there, I think it says host a show, and you click on that and submit a form, and I'll be in contact with you and try to work through and get one set up in your area. So
perfect. Cool. So let's talk about the show for 2016. You mentioned trailers and things like that. What types of names or production companies or guys are in the show that some of the listeners might be familiar with?
So we've got, it's a pretty cool lineup this year. We have some guys that have been in the show before, and then a lot of new faces this year. Stalker South has a film in there. A guy named Wes Smith did the production on it, Rookie Outdoors, and that's a film about Nevada mule deer, high country mule deer hunting with a stick bow. Then there's one that's pretty awesome. It's called Whaletail Outdoors, and it's called Into the Canyon. And John Blaylock, he actually built his own recurve bow and had a once-in-a-lifetime sheep hunt in Colorado and killed a 180-inch ram with a bow that he built.
Wow.
Holy
That's
crap.
insane.
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
It's pretty legit.
That's insane.
And then there's some guys called Southern Draw. They're actually from Florida that came out to hunt Idaho on a backcountry elk hunt. And they weren't able to kill an elk, but they killed like 175-inch mule deer. And pretty awesome. So then there's another Idaho hunt from the guys at Outdoors International, Mark Warnke and his son. It's called Birth of a Bow Hunter, and it's his son's basically his first big game hunt with his bow, and it's a spring bear hunt, and they kill it out of a stand, and pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And then one that I'm kind of partial to is Born and Raised Outdoors. We've got a film. We've actually had a film in it every year, so it's been a pretty fun ride for us. But this one's called Committed, and we go to Colorado. We literally pick a spot on the map, and in 3 days killed 2 bulls. So
wow.
it's pretty action packed and pretty chaotic.
That's awesome.
When we showed up at the trailhead, we're thinking like we've got this secret spot. We're driving up this road. It's just a nasty, rocky road, and we're like, dude, there hasn't been anyone up here like all season. And we get to the trailhead, and there was literally 10 trucks with horse trailers like packed into the spot. We're like, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I've been there.
we don't have
I've had those secrets.
Yeah, we don't have plan B or C, so here we go. And it was on a side note, we were hiking in there, and all of a sudden this gal, older gal, rolls up on us, and she's got a full pack string behind her, 5 mules, and she looks at us. She goes, "Where are you boys headed?" And we're like, "We have no idea." And she's like, "Well, I'm headed over the mountain here at the Crack Rock, so you might stay away from that, but good luck to y'all." Well, little did we know, she was the outfitter in the area, and we ended up we got too far in there where we killed those 2 bulls to get them out in time. So we, on the sat phone, connected with her later on, and she helped pack out those bulls, and it was kind of funny. I mean, here we were not lost, but we were just out searching and stumbled into some elk, and here this lady ended up helping us out. But it was the funniest part about it is Josh Keller, that's Ty's son-in-law, and he's been hunting with us for a couple of years. And as this horse walks by, or his presumed horse, he goes, "Wow, that's a big horse." And she goes, "It's not a horse, it's an ass." And it was like, here we are, middle of the trail, almost dark, making fun of us. So definitely, it was some entertainment for us. So
that's funny. So I'm curious to get a bit on the sort of hunting tactics side and change gears. You head into that, you show up, you think and hope that you're headed somewhere that's semi-secret spot and see all those trailers. You don't have a plan B at that point. You're going in, but what is your plan going in? I mean, is it just to try and cover ground? Just to go where it looks good and then avoid pressure if you run into it? I mean,
it's honestly, it's not even like go to where it looks good. It's just literally cover as much ground as possible. And, and we rely on calling. So it's bugle, bugle, hike, bugle, bugle, hike, bugle, hike.
So you guys you're making camp each night where you find yourselves at that point in time?
Depends. Yeah. Like we threw in, we hiked in that night in the dark. We finally made camp in the dark, got up in the morning, and we just took off and headed up a ridge just to kind of get, it was a pretty good climb. And, so I like hunting off my back. Some of the other guys aren't keen on it, just with, because it definitely adds some weight. And when you're looking at a 10-day deal, I mean, it's tough to get your pack weight down with that much food to be really comfortable. But so we've done it both ways, where we'll branch out for like a 3-day stint, stash some food and then just hunt with camp on the back. But definitely just cover as much ground and hope you get a bugle and then go after them. So we and the thing about it, like, we're not daylight hunters per se. We probably killed most of the bulls between noon and 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Mm-hmm. So find them where they're bedded and slip in on them and call them out of their bed and try and kill them. So
yeah, very cool.
Yeah,
it's definitely a great time to kill nice big bulls right in the middle of the afternoon. Most people are back at camp snoozing away.
Right.
Well, that's just it. I mean, generally speaking, it's like when you throw out a bugle at noon and you hear one, that's a bull. It's not like, well, is that a hunter? Or is that? I mean, most of the time it's a bull cracking off, and so I don't know. I think the big thing for us, the confidence in it's one thing, but I think that, when a bull's bedded down, like in the morning, they're on the move, they're chasing cows or running off rag bulls, but they're not like settled down. I mean, they're moving to a bedding area. So to try and call them out of that movement is pretty tough. If you're fortunate to get the wind and you can get ahead of them, that's a different deal. But, when that bull beds down, he knows where everything's at. He's got everything kind of scoped out, feels comfortable about it. So when something moves in on him, he feels comfortable to go protect his domain. Mm-hmm. And I think, 9 times out of 10, it's like you break that comfort barrier where it's like, okay, I got to go run off Jack. He's chasing Jill over there and I'm tired of it. So he gets up out of his bed and makes movement on it. And, everyone else stays settled down. So you don't have all those ears, eyes, noses, and you're just contending with that bull. And that's where it seems like where we've been successful on it. So,
yeah, that's been one of the most important lessons I've learned just in the field. One of those things where that situation's unfolding before us, we figure it out, it happens, and it's one of those things in reassessing, why did that work? It was exactly everything you said. I mean, we got on bulls in a spot one morning and they were responsive and everything, but they were on the move. They were on a mission. They wanted to move from point A to point B. We couldn't really get in front of them. We kept trying. They would somewhat hold up and kind of respond to us, but in the end, we couldn't make it happen. And so we're like, we're going to this spot tomorrow, the next day, and we're just going to kind of listen and kind of hear if they're making that same pattern again and really wait until we can trail them, follow them, and get them to go, okay, what's that midday point where they're starting to settle down? And then let them settle down a bit and then start to make a plan. And that's exactly what we did. And it's everything you just said. There's so much more. I think, they're not on a mission to move from point A to point B. They're in probably an area that they're familiar with, comfortable with. And at that point, if something's coming in on them, they're going to run it off either because they're defending their territory or they're just going to at least come check it out to see what it is. I just think that's so effective at that time of day, especially.
No, absolutely. I mean, we've had cases where it's like been on bulls right after daylight, and I'm talking Roosevelt's here, more of the experience, but had them close, couldn't get things, busted them out of there, and just backed off enough, took a nap, hung out 11 o'clock noon, and then slipped back over that 200 yards and called them in and killed them. where a lot of people are like, well, it's over. We blew them out of here. Let's go off. Especially on the Roosevelt side, you blow one out and they might run for 200 yards and then they'll chill and hang out and start getting back into their routine. Mm-hmm. Now, with that said, on the Rocky side of them, I've seen them like run out of one basin, through another, and cross the bridge onto the next.
Yeah, you said 200 yards. I'm like, I don't know what kind of elk those are.
Yeah. Different world over here. It's thick and jungle.
Yeah, they run 200 yards and they might as well be in a different county.
Absolutely. Yeah. And like when we were talking earlier about covering country and calling, like we call probably too much realistically, but at the same sense, I've had a bull, where I thought he could hear me, or maybe he did, but he didn't respond. But we move up 100 yards and call again, or 150 yards and call again. And, it's weird. Like if you ever get back from one of your buddies calling and you're 200 yards away, it's like you can barely hear him. And so your sound never travels as far as what you think it does. I mean, yeah, there's cases where you can get on a ridgetop and call across a canyon and it bounces back. But 9 times out of 10, if there's a little bit of wind or a little bit of terrain difference or thick timber, your sound doesn't travel near as far as what you think it is. So, call early and often. And, if you sound like a bull, a lot of times you'll get one to crack off. So,
yeah. Yeah, I'm sure that's especially true in Roosevelt country.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, let's jump back into the Full Draw Film Tour. We talked, kind of a bit about, some of the filmmakers that are going to be this year. It's always an interesting lineup. I know that last year's show was really, it was really impressive. It was really, really good stuff. All that said, you guys take, and select what films will be featured, and you get people from all over the country submitting films to be considered to be featured for the tour. So as you guys are collecting these entries, what are you looking for? What sets a film apart? What makes it be considered to be added to the tour? Is it all about quality? Is it all about the shots? Is it about the hunting scenario? Is it the whole package? If we have guys out here listening to this now who film their hunts and would even be remotely interested in submitting to something like this, what are you guys looking for as you bring films on tour?
That's a great question. So basically how the submission process works is we've got a panel of, I think this year we had 15 judges that, like we had 40, I think there was 44 submissions this year. And, I went through and watched and basically said, okay, these are the top 20, and sent those out to those judges. And then they blind voted based on, overall quality, entertainment, and then kind of the flow of it. And it's kind of a moving target, but basically everyone kind of ranks based, they give it a 1 to 10, of their basically 10 being their top favorite film, 1 being, the number 10th out of the 20th film. And then we compile those votes and then give the sum and rank it where they film or where they fall. So we don't per se like say we get a film and like, yep, that one's in. And, so it's been kind of a moving target. I would say the fun thing that we do during the show is we do a texture vote for your favorite film at the end of the night. So we have people text in the code for their favorite film, and that gives us kind of a pretty good pulse on what resonates with the audience. And so from year to year, we kind of take, okay, well, this film did really well, I wonder why. And we kind of take the ingredients of what that film was. And because really at the end of the day, like we want to give a platform for filmmakers, but we also want to be entertaining to the audience. So those are the two pieces, ingredients that really, we look for. So, as a film comes in, I would say, cinematic quality's got to be decent. I mean, it can't be shaky cam, bad audio, something that Blair Witch Project, but it could be rough around the edges, and with the right, cool story and mix to it and footage, make it into the tour. We want a good flow. We don't want a cinematic piece that's beautiful on screen, really all perfectly shot exposure, color, audio is perfect, but the story or the audience is not engaged in it because it's irrelevant to them. So we try and find, the tour is based in the West and most of our shows are out West. So we focus around the Western species. We've typically in the past probably been known as the elk tour, because everyone submitted elk to us. This year it's the deer tour. We've kind of got everything. We've got mountain goat, bighorn sheep, elk, bear, 3 mule deer hunts, blacktail deer, and a couple elk hunts. So it's definitely a good mix. People can see previous submissions and go watch them and see, kind of what's been made in the past. And, I would say the biggest thing is being original and maybe try and push the mold and be creative. But at the same point, as a filmmaker myself, you find this ingredients that resonates with the audience. And, it's comedy, something that makes someone laugh, and emotion. And if you can get the two of those things with some good hunting footage, you're bound to have a pretty good film that's going to resonate with people. So,
yeah, I think looking back on it, that's so true. That point about just thinking from, either engagement while I'm at the event and just seeing how people react and respond to a film, or even the ones that I was most drawn to, those aspects, which when you're going to make a hunting film, you're not necessarily thinking about comedy, or necessarily even the emotion of it, but those films that have that are certainly make more of a connection with an audience. That's the thing that I think is just helpful to always remember. We might be making hunting films, but the good elements of storytelling, the good elements of entertainment, the good elements of connection, those apply to all sorts of art. And, hunting film is one of those. So that's a really good point.
Yeah, absolutely. That's that's something I learned kind of early on, just getting feedback from people when they watched a film of ours, and it was like, oh, okay, that, and especially being at all these shows that I've seen it all, and I see what audiences react to, and what, when someone cracks a one-line joke and, the whole audience erupts, or some, just facial expressions of others, and the whole crowd goes and laughs and cheers, versus, we had a conversation with Steve and Lenny a couple of years ago, and they brought up the fact of Deep Thoughts by Jack Handy from Saturday Night Live. And there for a while, there was like this movement of filmmakers that especially on Vimeo, that it was like everyone was trying to tell this deep, just heart-piercing sob story of why they bow hunt, or something. It's like, yeah. And at the end of the day, I understand that, but it's probably not the best fit for the film tour, because, we want for someone to be, the whole theme of the tour is capture them, move them, change them. And so when someone walks through the theater doors and they come to the show, we want them to be captivated by what's going on, and the whole entire experience of it, of seeing the show and the interaction with other bow hunters and the camaraderie. during those films, I want them to be moved, emotionally drawn into what's going on, happy, sad, however that comes across. And when they leave the theater, I want them to be changed, where they think about life or bow hunting in a different perspective. And that's really what the goal and how we, everything's been built upon. And it's, we don't have the control of all the, the films, so we get what we get, and we try and especially like the order of the films and how the show goes on. I mean, we strategically kind of sit down and think about it and how the flow of the show and everything's going to be. So,
yeah. And it shows for sure. So you mentioned, kind of the whole experience of the night. For those who haven't been to one of the Full Draw Film Tour events, give us a little bit more insight, because some guys maybe in their head, they hear, film tour. Yeah, I've been to a movie theater before. You get your ticket, you show up, you sit down, the lights go out, you watch a bunch of stuff, the lights come on, you leave. But that's not remotely what the atmosphere, the environment, the activity of the Full Draw Film Tour is like. So kind of give us a bigger picture of some of the things that you guys do, some of the ways that there's interaction and things besides just sitting down to watch the film on these nights.
So, yeah, that's a good one. I mean, there's definitely some venues, and we're limited to what we can bring the show to, but really it's like beer, bow hunting, and brotherhood. I mean, those are it's like you come down, you hang out, bring the whole family. We love having kids there. And I'll touch on that in a little bit, but basically, come down there, swap stories. We open the doors up an hour before the show, so we like people coming in the lobby. They get like Boise per se. I mean, that's a 700-person show. It's packed. It's action-filled. The energy and excitement in the audience and in the lobby is second to none. We bring in other vendors, conservation groups, manufacturers, so they get to check out some new gear. And then when we open the show, we kind of do a shock and awe. Last year, like in Boise, Corey Jacobson and his son Isaac had a bugle back and forth, it just like makes your hair stand up and you can't wait for September. So we, and then we bomb out a bunch of t-shirts, get, the line I use a lot, and maybe it's a little cliche, but it's like not like watching TV at your grandma's house on Christmas or Thanksgiving, where everyone's like in a turkey tryptophan nap mode and they're like just watching. Like, we want you to laugh, cheer, clap, cry, be rowdy, have fun. I mean, that's like the number one thing, is to have fun. And we don't want the sidebar peanut gallery the whole time, but if you like something, cheer about it. If you don't, boo about it. So, we want some crowd interaction. And then we come up with intermission. This year we're doing a auction last year we did a pink hat for Wishes for Warriors. This year we were able to step it up and actually got a Benchmade pink knife that we're going to auction off at each show. To raise money for Wishes for Warriors. We do a gear giveaway from, all the companies. They give a bunch of prizes, and then finish off the show with, like I said, the texture vote. And then we also do Hoyt bow giveaway at the end of the night. Now, for the kids, everyone that comes through the door, the kids get a free ticket, and during intermission, we give away a kid's bow. So every kid comes up on stage. They walk out of there with a Full Draw DVD and a chance to win a bow. And so we give away a bow, and at intermission there for the kids. And at the end of the night, the Hoyt adult bow, and call it a night. So
yeah. One of my favorite parts is that kids bow section, because every year you've done it a little different, where you do some kind of, how has it been? It's been like a contest or rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah. We did the rock, paper, scissors, the Rochambeau or whatever
right.
And it was awesome until we got to Boise and we had almost 100 kids on stage.
Yeah, there was a ton of kids there.
90 kids, and it was like,
Oh, crap.
Okay, 30 minutes later, here's the 2 finalists. So, yeah, we've kind of changed that up here and there, but, at the end of the day, we want them to get excited about hunting and thank the parents for bringing them out and pass it on to the next generation. So,
am I remembering or showing the fact that it's getting late and I'm losing my mind, but was there some sort of dance-off at Boise last year?
Yeah. Yeah, so Wes at the Roseburg show, the world premiere last year, he grabs this backpack and he's like, I want to give this away to the best dancer here. And I'm like, what? Like totally random, out of the norm. I'm like, okay. And so he's like, I'm going to give this pack away to the best dancer here. So I do a little beatbox and people are up dancing, and finally we get a couple finalists. We bring them up on stage and I'm like, okay, this pack's going on. And I start this beatbox. The next thing you know, this guy's taking his shirt off and floating around. And it's like, okay, the whole crowd goes wild. Get your backpack. Okay. Yeah, we've done a few twists and turns. We did it. We also sometimes would give the prize away to the loudest person here. And so, like the one that happened last year, we had a recurve bow from Camel Fire that they donated. And Wes did the same thing. He's like, I'm going to give this bow to the loudest person here. And this lady, like, jumped out of her seat. She could have dunked a basketball. And she's like, yeah, I want that bow. And there was no doubt out of 300 people, like, she was the loudest person. So, yeah, we try and have fun with it and, make it fun and then interactive for everyone. So,
yeah,
there's nothing really quite like it. It's such a just fun, unique experience. I definitely encourage anybody that's listening, if there's a city close by that it's coming to, you need to go to it.
Yeah, absolutely. So speaking of it, the 2016 tour dates, they're up. They're on the site. Just go hit fulldrawfilmtour.com.
Yep, fulldrawfilmtour.com, and up there in the upper left it says dates and tickets. You can click on there and see the full lineup. And like you said, if you're back east where we may not touch, click on the host a show and be happy to work with someone on trying to get it in their neck of the woods, and you round up some buddies and make it happen. So
yeah, that's very cool. So how can folks, if they're interested, kind of follow what you're up to, Kody, on social media and all that?
Yeah, I've got Instagram's just Kody Kellom, Kody, Kellom, Kellom. I've been experimenting. I honestly am not one that I've really put a lot of social media out there, but it's been kind of fun lately, throwing some stuff out there. I'm also up on the Born and Raised Outdoors page, and then Full Draw Film Tour. So I've got a fun project that's coming up this summer that I'll release at a later date, but I'll have to get back on and talk about it. That might be pretty fun to follow me at as well. So
yeah, for sure. We'd love to have you back and hear about it.
Mark, are you coming out to the Boise show again this year?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we'll be out there and hit up that, and it works out so great that there's that and the Northwest Mountain Challenge right afterwards. So yeah, I'll be out for the whole weekend and looking forward to it.
Yeah, that's last year I missed that show with my wife. We were due on July 1st or June 27th or something like that. We ended up having our baby on July 1st, so there was no
chance.
Camp rack. Yeah, so I'm looking forward.
We'll be up there this year.
Yeah. Actually, it's kind of fun. We're doing at all three of the Triple Crown for the Northwest Mountain Challenge. We'll have a encore show. So,
absolutely,
yeah. Hoping to get an extra little film from Spec out of him. If we can get that
yeah. I'm trying to get my mountain goat film edited up, and for that, we'll see. There's
that'd be cool.
Not enough hours in the day, but I'm trying. So
that'd be cool.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, so the encore show, that's so neat because it's up on the mountain at the shoot, basically wait till the sun goes down and just, again, everybody kind of hits the lawn, grabs a beer or whatever, and sits down to check it out. And it's a different lineup than, the full draw film tour, so you get to see some different stuff. We should just put it on record now and start advertising that Steve's Mountain Goat show's going to be there. Just
exactly. You put that
force me to burn the midnight oil
there.
Yeah.
Nothing better to do, Steve. You have nothing Nothing.
Yeah, not much going on.
Cool.
Awesome.
Was there anything else that we should hit,
yeah,
guys?
So, anything else you guys want to cover at all that I missed in telling stories or lies?
No, I don't think
that
so.
Was pretty good. Yeah, we kind of bounced around a little bit, but it was good.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the fact that we got into some elk hunting tips and stuff like that. Try to keep every episode with, some legitimate going to the field, better information. So
yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that sounds great, Kody. Thank you so much for your time and coming on. And hopefully, most of the listeners can see you and see these films at the show. So again, thank you for your time.
Oh no, I'm stoked to be here. It's I can never talk about bow hunting too much. My wife sometimes is like, "Are you do you ever not stop thinking about it?" And it's like, no, is that bad? But no. So yeah, it's good. I want to hear some more stories about some of your adventures and your perspective, Mark, on coming, hunting out west one of these days. It intrigues me, hunting stuff back there. It's a totally different world, and I know that there's a lot for me to learn as, to better myself as a hunter, hearing your experiences back there and what you've learned and swapping some more stories. So
for sure, man. That's definitely a learning curve.
And then every time I get in the woods with Speck, it's like he's Miyagi of backpacking. I mean, it's like I'm just blown away every time.
Miyagi, that's a good way to put it.
I've never been called Miyagi before, but I'll take it.
Yeah,
Kody, son.
Yeah,
your pack too heavy.
Yeah. Well, it was like I threw a bunch of stuff in there and they're like, "Hell, my pack's like, what are you packing?" I'm like, "Dude, I have nothing in here. I feel like I'm trim and light." And he's like 4 pounds or lighter than me. So he gets to pack the beer next time.
Yeah.
That seems only fair.
I was going to mention earlier that most of the born and raised guys don't want to pack their stuff all the time is because they got 2 gallons of whiskey with them at any given time.
Right.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, the backcountry cocktail, a little fireball and hot apple cider.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for listening, guys. Be sure to tune back next week for another new episode. In the meantime, again, go ahead and leave us a review if you're enjoying the show on iTunes or Stitcher, wherever you're listening to this. If you have any questions or other feedback, go ahead and reach out to podcast@exomountaingear.com. Thank you.